Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can confirm that the live stream and recording have commenced.
Thank you, Sarah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. It is 5:30 and you can begin your meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. And tell me this isn't weird. Not having to look at video to see the council. I look to my left and right. I see that we indeed do have quorum. So with that, I will call into session this meeting on Tuesday, February 21st, which is a regular council meeting. As usual, at the beginning of all meetings, we have the land recognition statement. And tonight is my honor to do that. We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. And acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. And Madam Clerk and Council, if I may, with your indulgence, just one or two, just two things I'd like to speak of. Could attend. We have been fortunate in many ways, as during this same period, we have been live streaming and then posting on YouTube so that residents, if they so wish, could still follow town business. There are many municipalities do not live stream and obviously do not post on YouTube. So it has been great that in the last 3 years, the public has still been aware or could make themselves aware of town business as it happens. One other thing I'd like to comment on, if I could, is yesterday I went to the MCC. The town, as you know, had lots of activities at the Meridian Community Center. I was talking to the Director of Recreation, Vicky Van Ravensway. We had over 2,600 people attend the events. Like I say, I was there with my 16-year-old granddaughter, and it was just amazing the number of events that the residents were able to take part of and enjoy with their kids, children. So I would like to take this time to express the council's appreciation to the work and effort that the RCW staff put into this event to make it such a community event and so successful. Thanks, Bixie, and please relay that to your staff. Thank you. And now I turn to the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a mover and a seconder for a motion. Be it resolved that the agenda for the February 21st, 2023 regular meeting of council be adopted as circulated. However, Mr. Mayor, I did have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Olson, that the agenda be amended to include the addendum package. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the revised agenda amendment? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The vote begins with Councillor Eckhart,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Councillor Kerr,
Yes.
Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Wink,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the agenda for the February 21st, 2023 regular meeting of council be adopted as amended. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any discussion.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the agenda as amended? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. The vote again begins with Councillor Eckhart,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Councillor Kerr,
Yes.
Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Wink,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. That does bring you to the disclosure of pecuniary interest.
Oh, sorry, I'll start again. After viewing the agenda, is there any member of council that has a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to declare? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Dear Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have so noted. Gee, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Eckhart, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. 1 RC 03/2023, regular council, February 6, 2023. To Mr. Mayor, I'd ask that you call for any errors or omissions.
Thank you. After viewing the minutes, is there any omissions or other items that a member of council would like to bring forth? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The vote begins with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kerr.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
To you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to item 7 of the agenda, and this is the item where any member of council may lift an item from the consent agenda if they wish to change the resolution. If council just wishes to make a comment or speak on an item, they are not required to lift. Through you, Mr. Mayor, if you can ask if any councillors have items to lift.
Is there any item that any member of council would like to lift? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have so noted. That does bring us to the consent agenda. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that the consent agenda as listed on the February 21st, 2023 council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. To you, Mr. Mayor, council may now comment. Would you like to go and comment on blocks?
Yes,
Categories?
let's do that, please, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The first category would be presentations and recommendations arising from committee of council for council's approval, and that would include the minutes. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Is there any council that would make a comment on any one of these items? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. The next would be the staff reports of a routine nature for information or action.
Okay, and this next group, any member of council like to make a comment? Oh, yes, Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to comment about 8.3.5, the proposed sharing of planning services with the region of Niagara. Noting that the one of the aims of the changes to the provincial government has proposed. I'm just want to make sure that we don't add that to our costs if at all possible, because this, these kind of things tend to last and they tend to take a life of their own. And I want to be sure that we're taking every step possible to make sure that the cost goes down if possible. And I just seeking that reassurance from the CAO.
Thank you, Councillor. To the CAO, Mr. Cripps.
Well, I suppose I can deliver a qualified promise. We hope we can deliver on it. Certainly, and at the end of my comments, I hope Ms. Weens will also speak. But what I can tell council is that on behalf of the town, Director Weens and I have attended multiple meetings with regional staff and with virtually every CAO and certainly every director of planning throughout Niagara to try to find a mechanism that will do exactly what Councillor Olson's speaking to not require us to hire additional staff and not require those costs to just automatically fall to the local area municipality. And as the report kind of addresses, or we hope addresses, we're not at the end of the road. We don't know exactly. The province hasn't actually passed, they passed the statute, but there's one more step and we don't know when that'll happen, if or when that'll happen. So there's sort of there's a shoe to drop, but we think we have an agreement in principle and a way forward that should work and should hopefully not require us to change our staffing complement. Because the bottom line, the key to understand is that the province essentially removed the region from the process, but they didn't make any other changes to what's required to make new construction in Niagara. So you still need archaeology permits, you still need hydrology, you still need to make sure that the ground is stable, like all of that still exists. And so, and very clearly, a year ago, the region was very clear what happened where. So the law has changed dramatically, and it's changed not at all simultaneously. And we've been working our way through that. I think, and I'm not alone, I know several of the other CAOs also feel like we found a model that will allow us to maintain relative efficiency and probably lead to one-stop shopping, in fact. And so I'm very comfortable with what we've arrived at on paper, and I think there's been pretty good will around the table to make it work. But as with everything, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, and we're doing something that we've never done before. We are in uncharted territory, and we're in uncharted territory without any forewarning. So I suppose that's the qualification to we think we've got it. At least from my perspective, I think we've got it. And I know that's shared by a couple of the other CAOs. That said, our director of planning knows this even better than I do. So I'd certainly like to yield the floor to her, if I may, in answer to the question.
Director of Planning, Ms. Weens.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, as the CAO indicated, we're still in a bit of work of progress here, but there is agreement with regards to sharing of some of these services, and the sharing is meant to minimize costs to the municipality, but also to minimize costs to the end user. Ultimately, in the end, will there be an increase in cost to the end user? At this point in time, we don't think so. The region, particularly as it relates to development applications, because the region does charge fees for those things, and they do operate on a cost recovery basis. Those fees will just be rolled into kind of the town's fees, and we will reimburse the region for that. So it will likely not be, with respect to development applications, an increase in fees. However, I do need to also qualify that, because what we've also indicated is we do need to look at the town fees, and there hasn't been, since I've been with the town, any type of evaluation as to whether or not, from the town's perspective, when we're dealing with development applications, is the percentage of staff time that we're collecting through those application fees. Is it 50%, 60%, 80%, 100%? That's an unknown number. And, we expect probably in a year from now, we'll be bringing a report to council and getting some direction from council in terms of what is council's philosophy in terms of cost recovery on development application fees. With respect to the other things that the region does on perhaps maybe on a more policy basis, and those fees, that still needs to be worked out and determined. So, and again, we, as the CAO indicated, we're in a bit of a process here, and so we can't say for sure whether or not there will be an impact on fees, but we are certainly trying to keep fees at a minimum and still keep the same quality of service and level of service that we need to get the work done, but trying to minimize the costs. And certainly through the changes in Bill 23, there's a significant downloading of responsibilities to the local municipality. And if the region is doing work on behalf of the local municipality, we have to figure out how that gets covered. And those are still pieces of the pie that are yet to be figured out as we go forward. But this report is meant to give you at least a framework on which we are working through those agreements. So I wish I could give you a little bit more definitive answer than I can this evening. Unfortunately, we're not there yet to be able to say for certain whether or not there's going to be an impact on costs to either the town or to the development community.
Thank you, Ms. Weens. Thank you, CEO Cribs, Counselor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to be clear that my understanding is that the intent of some of the legislation is to simplify the way things are done. And the intention is to create more housing. I hate to see us pass up an opportunity to do things differently and reduce the bureaucracy, because these things have a life of their own. And I'm not suggesting that we waste time and we do things the wrong way, but maybe it's time to look at a totally different way of looking at the way we operate some of our services, and take advantage of things like technology and things that would take away a lot of the different activities that we have to take, costly activities that we have to undertake. So I'm satisfied with that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Any other counselor like to discuss any of the other action committees or any of these other items in this block? Not seeing any. Hey, Madam Clerk. Is that in this block? Or is this coming up?
Yes, that's in this block.
Oh, actually, sorry. So before we do go on to the next block, there is one that I would like to discuss, and that is just to ask the CAO on 8.4.1 on this resident who is wishing to make a donation towards the skate park. What would be the next steps on this, Mr. CAO?
Her name is Vicky Van Ravensway,
Ah,
and she is the solution to most problems we experience.
okay, then I return to RCW Director Vicky Van Ravensway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We were contacted by Ms. Nelson with regard to improvements at the skate park. Unfortunately, she has lost her son recently, and he attended the skate park regularly. And there's an opportunity to receive donations towards improvements of the park that her son and his friends would have liked to have seen. So we're asking council to recognize this so that we can receive donations for improvements at the park through corporate services. Staff will be meeting with Ms. Nelson and discussing possible improvements that she would like to see. But if the community realizes that the town does support this, then we're able to receive the donations properly.
Excellent. I'm glad to see that this is indeed moving on. I had some email correspondence with this resident, and I know it meant a great deal to her to be able to take this step. Thank you for following up on that. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The next and last would be the information correspondence. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anyone, any counselor have any comments to make on this last block? Not seen, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. And so this is for the consent agenda, and the vote begins with Councillor Kerr.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, that does carry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Eckhart, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that council receive report 2023-0025 civil marriage ceremonies service update for information, and that council approve policy number S-203-18 civil marriage solemnization as revised, and that council consider approving bylaw 14-2023, thereby repealing bylaw 37-12-2016. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any discussion.
Okay. Any comments on this agenda item from any members of council? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote begins with Counselor Olson,
Yes.
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 Counselor Kerr,
Yes.
Mayor Duncan.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. To you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Counselor Kerr, seconded by Counselor Olson. Be it resolved that council receive report 0230042 special event permit application, TASC Tulip Pick Farm 2023 for information. And that council authorize and direct the town clerk to issue a special event permit for the Tulip Pick Farm event running from April 30th, 2023 to May 21st, 2023, subject to approval of the town clerk, Director of Public Works, Director of Community Planning and Development, Fire Chief, the Region of Niagara, if applicable, and any other applicable agencies upon receipt of satisfactory drawings, plans, permits, or other such documents as requested. And that the special event permit include any such conditions of approval as requested by the said approval departments and or agencies. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Any members of council have any comments on this agenda item? Or on this item? Yes. Not seen any, Madam Clerk, although I do have a question for our Director of Planning. Not on this particular application, but as town staff are aware, we do indeed have another tulip pick your own application. And I've seen the field. I know they planted it down in my end of the town at the corner of Center and Metler Street. I was wondering, have they asked for any special permits? And even if they haven't, I have had a couple of citizens ask me such things as traffic control and other such items. Anything you may say or contribute to this other potential tulip farm coming online, Madam? And I'll direct that to the Director of Planning, Ms. Weens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yes, I know that staff have had discussions with that applicant as well. They are in the Niagara Escarpment plan area, but we've also had discussions with them about what type of information we need to address kind of those concerns. And certainly the preparation of a traffic management plan is one of the standard things that we've asked for, and we're working with them through that process. And so, yeah, there have been ongoing discussions with them on those kind of requirements.
Excellent. Thank you for that. To you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the vote begins with Counselor Wink,
Yes.
Counselor Eckhart,
Yes.
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 Counselor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Duncan.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Counselor Wink, seconded by Counselor Olson. Be it resolved that council receive report 2023-0052 special event permit application, the Fenwick Market 2023 for information. And that council authorize and direct the town clerk to issue a special event permit for the Fenwick Market event running on May 27th, 2023 and May 28th, 2023, subject to the approval of the town clerk, Director of Public Works, Director of Community Planning and Development, Fire Chief, and any other applicable agency upon receipt of satisfactory drawings, plans, permits, or other such documents as required. And that the special event permit include any such conditions as approval as requested by the said approval department and or agency, and that council waive all licensing and fee requirements pursuant to bylaw number 3186, 2011 for craft vendors only in lieu of $150 fire inspection fee payable to the town of Pelham prior to the issuance of the permit. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Any counselor have any questions or comments on this permit application? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote begins with Counselor Eckhart,
Yes.
Counselor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Counselor Kerr,
Yes.
Counselor Olson,
Yes.
Counselor Wink,
Yes.
Mayor Duncan.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That carries. Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Counselor Kerr, seconded by Counselor Eckhart. Be it resolved that council receive report 2023-0054 corporate services for information, updated procurement policy, purchasing goods and services, and that council approve the revised procurement policy, purchasing goods and services policy number S402-00 to you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on this agenda item? Council Wink.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just looking at the meal allowances, I think they may be a tad low. $20 for breakfast is fine. $25 for lunch might be a little low. Nowadays, if you go to a restaurant and you have a hamburger, it's $20, roughly $20. And that's right off of the websites of our local restaurants. If you add tax and tip on that, that's $26.67. And that doesn't allow for a beverage, a pop or a coffee. So I would suggest that we may want to increase that to $35 and also $40 for dinner. Should be a little bit more. I think 60 would be probably more in line.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Do I turn to the CAO for comments on that?
No, staff get lots of things wrong. We're happy to take direction from council on whatever an appropriate quantum will be. It's discuss amongst yourselves,
Okay,
and if you get a mover and seconder, then you can make it an amendment.
okay, thank you, Mr. CAO. Any other counselor have any comments on this comment by Mr. Council Wink? Councilor Eckert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question just is, where did we get these figures from? What are they based on? I know in my past, federal allowances were usually way higher than any municipal or provincial standard. So where do we draw these numbers from to apply to our people?
Thank you, Counselor. I'll turn to the treasurer. Ms. Quinlan.
Yeah, so these were, we looked at other municipalities and what they were charging, but they could be lower depending on the year that they did their policy. So we were trying to be conservative, but I do agree with Council Wink that it could go a little bit higher. We were just trying to be conservative.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilor Wink, were you prepared to put a motion forward?
Sorry. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the meal allowances to $20 for breakfast, $35 for lunch, and $60 for dinner, and that includes tax and tip.
Okay, thank you, Counselor, and we need a seconder for that motion. Counselor Eckert, thank you, sir. Just waiting for the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have an amendment on the floor from Counselor Wink, seconded by Counselor Eckhart, that the motion be amended to include and that council approve the policy to be revised with the following amendments. With respect to the meal allowances being $20 for breakfast, $35 for lunch, $60 for dinner, and that those are to include tax and tip. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any discussion.
Okay, thank you. We've heard the motion. Is there any comments or questions on this motion? Councilor Olson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, questions for the treasurer. How much do you have an estimate or an idea how much we actually spend on this in a year? And,
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, obviously in the last couple of years with COVID, it was almost zero. It's not a very high item, dollar item. I don't have the exact number, but usually this is, when staff attend a conference or it's not a high number, but I don't have it off the top of my head. I can email council to let you know what it was, let's say in 2019 in a regular year.
Councillor Olson?
Yes, thank you. I wouldn't expect that number to be at your fingertips, but if it's, and the size of it is you say is small, then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions before we call the vote? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. This is for the amendment and the vote begins with Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Counselor Olson,
Yes.
Counselor Wink,
Yes.
Yes.
Counselor Eckhart,
Yes.
Duncan.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That amendment does carry. You are now on the main motion as amended. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just for the ease, I will be using the same mover, being Counselor Kerr, with the seconder being Counselor Eckhart. And this is for the main motion as amended. And the vote again begins with Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Counselor Olson.
Yes.
Counselor Wink.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that does carry. To you, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Counselor Hildebrandt, seconded by Counselor Wink. Be it resolved that the council for the town of Pelham, having given due consideration to the following bylaw, do read a first, second, and third time, and do pass same, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. 1, bylaw 13, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm various appointments to advisory committees of the town of Pelham for the 2022 to 2026 term of council. 2, bylaw 14, 2023, being a bylaw to endorse the clerk of the town of Pelham or designate to solemnize marriage ceremonies and to repeal and replace bylaw 37, 12, 2016. Bylaw 15, 2023, being a bylaw to exempt lot 125 on plan 59M 434, municipally known as 102, 104, 106, and 108 Summersides Boulevard from part lot control. River Estates Phase 1 subdivision. 867926 Ontario Limited, file number PCL 01-2023. 4, bylaw 16, 2023, being a bylaw to exempt blocks 160 and 163 on plan 59M 505 from part lot control. Saffron Meadows Phase 3 Hurt Inc., file number PLC 01-2022. 5, bylaw 17, 2023, being a bylaw to adopt official plan amendment number 18 for the town of Pelham planning area, 125 Port Robinson Road, file number OPAM 03-2022. Bylaw number 6, bylaw number 18, 2023, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 1136, 1987 as amended. For lands located at 125 Port Robinson Road, legally described as part of Township Lot 167, Part 1, Plan 59R 5449, Town of Pelham Regional Municipality of Niagara, from the agricultural zone to the site-specific residential 2, 330, residential multiple 1, 331, residential multiple 1, 332, and residential multiple 2, 333 zones, file number AM 03-2022. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any discussion on any of these bylaws by any councillor? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
To you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The vote begins with Counselor Kerr.
Yes.
Counselor Olson,
Yes.
Counselor Wink,
Yes.
Counselor Eckhart,
Yes.
Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. To you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to the motions and notices of motion. We do have a motion put forward on the agenda tonight from Counselor Olson and Counselor Wink. To you, Mr. Mayor, if Counselor Olson wishes to read his motion into the record.
Councillor Olson?
Certainly. Certainly, I'm happy to do that. Again, this is being put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Wink. Whereas Council for the Town of Pelham approved a grant application for a new library through the Green and Inclusive Community Building Grant Program. And whereas staff of the Town of Pelham applied for and was successful in receiving the amount of 5.4 million through the Green and Inclusive Community Building Grant Program to build a new proposed Lincoln Pelham Public Library Fonthill branch. And whereas inflation and increased construction costs have risen, the project estimated cost of the new proposed Lincoln Pelham Public Library Fonthill branch total from approximately 9.5 million to 17.3 million. And whereas Council for the Town of Pelham desires to ensure financial sustainability of the Town of Pelham. And whereas Council for the Town of Pelham declares a project to construct a new proposed Lincoln Pelham Public Library Fonthill branch neither financially reasonable or sustainable at this time. And whereas Council for the Town of Pelham supports renovating the current Fonthill Library branch as desired for the community, as it will be both financially and operationally sustainable. Now therefore be it resolved that Council directs staff of the Town of Pelham to change the scope of work in grant applications, and that the town's asset management plan from building a new library branch to retrofitting the existing library branch and apply for applicable grant funding. And that Council directs staff to focus on renovating the existing Fonthill Library branch to ensure all accessibility requirements are met by 2025 under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council Olson, you brought forward the motion. Any comments on it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the clerk for reading that for me. Something this long, I tend to mumble. And I lose track of the line of thought, even if it's written down for me sometimes. So I appreciate that. It's very clear to me that and I don't want to discount the efforts of our staff in getting these grants, because their effort has been superior. It's also pretty evident that the only way we're going to get major works done is if we have grants that we receive from the other governments. So I'm pleased that we're on the job and able to apply for these things, but this is just beyond our means, I think, to finance something of that nature in excess of $8 million or around $8 million on our own. So it makes sense to withdraw this and look at the renovation of what appears to be a perfectly good building, and maybe we can find some innovative way of increasing the capacity of it and using it. So that's the purpose of the motion.
Thank you, Council Olson. Council Wink, you seconded the motion. Any words?
Yes, so this is formalizing what was through our discussions regarding the capital budget. The $17 million came as a surprise to all of us. The increased cost from $9 million to 17, and that amount of money would have been funded by the town itself and the taxpayers. And as Councillor Olson pointed out, that's simply not sustainable. The cost of that library ended up roughly half of the cost of what this building was cost us. So that's considerable amount of money that, with things being tight as a result of inflation and everything, we thought it prudent to bring this forward and put this topic to rest at this point in time. So.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors have any comments at this time? If I may, I'd like to also add my comments. I remember the day when we gathered at the MCC and we had this announcement made. The member of parliament, of course, for the federal government, Vance Badaway, was there to make the announcement. And it was indeed, it was a great announcement. It was a great feather in the cap for this for our staff, to be honest, to be able to put together the grant request and to get the town this money. And it's just very unfortunate that with the inflationary cost and what other elements took the price tag to such an extent that, this council was very, had a tough decision to make. No one likes to turn down a grant, especially of this magnitude, but it was a decision this council made for the future of the town. And I believe, as I believe the majority of councilors did on the unanimously voted to go the route that this motion takes us. So regrettably, but it was indeed the sensible thing to do. To you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there's no other discussion, the vote begins with Counselor Olson.
Yes.
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 Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Counselor Kerr.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. Mr. Mayor, I have a motion being put forth by Counselor Eckhart, seconded by Counselor Kerr. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be ready first, second, and third time and passed, being bylaw number 19, 2023, to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of council of the town of Pelham at its regular meeting held on the 21st day of February, 2023. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any discussion.
Any discussion from any councilors? Not seen any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote begins with Counselor Wink.
Yes.
Counselor Eckhart.
Yes.
Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Counselor Hildebrandt, seconded by Counselor Olson. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for March 1st, 2023 at 9 a.m. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any discussion.
Thank you. Any comments from any councilors? Not seen any, Madam Clerk?
We have a Counselor Eckhart.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Eckhart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before we rise, a couple of weekends ago, I had the pleasure of attending the Vail Center in Port Colborne. The mayor and I were there to cheer on our town of Pelham hockey team, who were victorious against the other municipalities in the area, Welland, Waynfleet, Port Colborne, Thorold, and the Niagara region, and with a score of 5-2. And I wanted to congratulate them for giving the town bragging rights for 1 year.
And indeed, Counselor, is the best hockey you and I have seen in quite a while. Excellent. To you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The vote does begin with Counselor Eckhart.
Yes.
Yes.
Counselor Kerr.
Yes.
Counselor Olson.
Yes.
Counselor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. It is 6:13 p.m. and you can gavel out your meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate the residents who came and watched tonight's council meeting in person. And it was indeed a strange event to be back with